Hi, first grade. I hope you're doing well. I'm super excited to share a story with you today that's connected to our reading theme for the week. The essential question from our journeys text is, what can you learn from someone who comes from a different country? And I think that's a great question because we have so much to learn from all the different people we meet along our life path. Well, today I'd like to share with you a story about Oskar and the 8 blessings. We're also going to be talking about the word blessing and what that means. Blessing is defined as God's favor and protection. You know, we hear in the Bible stories about Jesus blessing other people, right? I've talked with you in class about how you can bless someone else. How can you be like Jesus for that person? So to bless is to give God's favor and protection, or to ask for it, I should say. A blessing is receiving God's favor and protection. And this boy, Oskar, he comes from a place called Lithuania. Lithuania is a European country far, far away from here. The setting is 1938, so almost 100 years ago, this boy traveled. He had to leave on his own without his family to this country that we call the United States of America. He came across the boat on the ocean to our country. And along the way, he's encountering some blessings. Let's see what we can learn from him. Oskar and the 8 blessings. You know, many years ago, they didn't have airplanes to travel like we do now. Most people traveled around the world then by ship, including Oskar. And here he is coming into New York Harbor. Oskar arrived in New York on the 7th day of Hanukkah. It was also Christmas Eve. He knew his Aunt Esther would be lighting the menorah at sunset. To reach her before the sun went down, Oskar would have to walk over 100 blocks on the avenue called Broadway. The city was terribly big. Oskar was terribly small, and Broadway stretched before him like a river. So Oskar was from a much smaller town than New York was in 1938. And it said in here that he was getting ready, well, it was the 7th day of Hanukkah, and his Aunt Esther, who he's looking for, would be lighting the menorah. Do you guys recognize those words? Hanukkah is a special holiday celebrated usually close to Christmas, and it's a holiday celebrated by our Jewish friends, our Jewish cousins. Oskar was already tired, hungry, and cold. His father's last words to him felt very far away. After a few blocks, he looked up to see a woman feeding pigeons. She offered him a piece of stale roll so he could feed them too. Oskar wanted to feed the birds, but he was too hungry not to swallow the morsel himself. So keep in mind, he had traveled a long way, and it took a long time to get that far. He was so hungry that he had to nibble on that food instead of giving it to the bird. And notice the woman here watching him. What will she do? The woman reached inside her coat and gave him a small loaf of bread. It was warm and fresh. It gave him the strength to keep walking. What a great sign of compassion, of loving like Jesus. He saw a newsstand full of comics. One showed a strong man in a cape doing amazing things. He stopped bullets. He stopped trains. The newsstand man held out his hand. Oskar didn't have money, so he gave back the comic book. The man called to him. I don't know if you can tell from the pictures, but here he is on a cold day looking at this amazing man, the superhero. Do you recognize him? It's Superman. Superman had just come out in 1938, and Oskar was very interested. Keep it, kid. Merry Christmas. So here's the man giving Oskar the comic book. He didn't have money to pay for it, but the man gave it to him anyway. Oskar clutched his gift, his Superman, and he heard his father's words. You have to look for the blessings. You know, going, especially as a kid, traveling across the ocean and going so far away without your mom and dad to help you takes a lot of courage. And his daddy reminded him, you've got to look for blessings. Look for the good things that might happen. Look for God in the world around you. So here's Oskar thinking about those words his dad said. And do you notice anything here? I thought this was an interesting illustration. There's an angel. You know, we all have an angel looking out for us. It's called our guardian angel. You think Oskar might have a guardian angel taking care of him too? I think he might. Oskar kept walking. He stopped when he heard music coming from a little alley where a big man was humming a jazzy tune. The man whistled to Oskar. Oskar whistled back. They made a tune as fast and light as the snowflakes falling around them. It was Oskar's first conversation in America. The very first conversation through the language of music. Pretty cool. At the corner of the park, boys were having a snowball fight. One boy slipped. Oskar leapt and caught him, just as the Superman would have done. The boy was laughing, and that made Oskar laugh. But when he looked at Oskar's cold hands, he stopped laughing. He took off his mittens. Oskar put them on and felt the boy's warmth. He had something to give the boy too. So it looks like it's winter time in New York, and winter in New York is really cold. And I think the boy noticed that Oskar did not have gloves like most kids would have during that cold weather. So he showed kindness, didn't he? He took off his gloves, gave them to Oskar. And in return, Oskar, can you tell what he did? He gave that comic book to the boy. Great examples of showing love and blessing to one another. A few blocks later, a tall lady in a big coat walked out from a building. A policeman shouted, "Stand aside!" Oskar stopped short. "Oh, Thomas, he's just a child," the lady said to the policeman. "Let him pass." She winked at Oskar. The policeman moved out of Oskar's path. "Yes, Mrs. Roosevelt." Mrs. Roosevelt? The president at the time was President Roosevelt, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and this was his wife. Oh my goodness. The sun was setting and Oskar began to run. He had to get to Aunt Esther's before she lit the shamash candle. Running, he stumbled and then he fell. A hand reached down. Wonder whose hand it is. And pulled him up. "Back on your feet, son." His father was right. People can be good. Even during that scary time of being a kid and alone in a new big city, it's getting dark, he's finding some blessings along the way, isn't he? He turned the corner and ran down the street looking for her house. He ran past a woman humming a nigundal. Suddenly, he heard a name. Benjamin? It wasn't his name. It was his father's name, and it washed over him. She had dimpled smile just like his. "That's Papa," he said. "I am Oskar," whispered Aunt Esther. And that is the end of the story. Well, friends, I wanted to share this story with you because I thought it was a good illustration of someone who comes from a different country. He came from Lithuania across the ocean all by himself, probably not much older than you guys are right now. All by himself, he came to start a new life in this country that we call the United States of America. And before he left, his daddy taught him a lesson that he brought with him, that he took with him, and we heard about it a little bit. He said, even in the bad times, you need to look for the good. Look for the blessings. A blessing is anything we have in our life that's good, that's from God, right? The food that we eat, the people we call our family, the houses that we live in that protect us from the cold weather and the storms, those are blessings. Sometimes it's hard to find blessings, but Oskar reminds us that even during those hard times, when it seems like there's so much going on that isn't so good, we need to look for the blessings. Well, friend, I share this story for you today, and I'm wondering if you might be able to think about the story for just a few minutes. Think about what you can learn from Oskar's experience. What were some of the blessings that he received in this story? What lesson could we learn from him? I'm going to invite for you to write down on a piece of paper at least two of Oskar's blessings, and think about a lesson that we could learn from the story. I'm going to invite for you to submit your writing when you're finished and ready into our Google Classroom. I'm excited to hear what you think might be the blessings that he received and what you might think would be a lesson we can learn. All right, friends, I hope you have a wonderful day and know that you are blessed.